Here he is in 1953, and here he is today, one of the most recognizable faces on television. He's the host of The Late Late Show on CBS, Milwaukee's own Tom Snyder, next on I Remember Milwaukee. Hi, I'm Jim Peck, and welcome to I Remember Milwaukee. Joining us tonight is Tom Snyder. Now, Tom was chosen by CBS to host The Late Late Show following The Letterman Show. This after a very successful stint on cable network CNBC. Now, over the years, with all of his successes, Tom has maintained his ties with his hometown. Take a look.
Tom Snyder grew up in Milwaukee. As a student at Marquette University High School, Tom took center stage in a number of school productions. After graduation, Tom became a broadcaster, working his way from reporter to anchor at a series of TV stations across the country. In 1973, Tom Snyder became a big hit when he ran The Tomorrow Show on NBC. The show was canceled after 9 years. Many thought his career was over. But Tom Snyder defied convention when he made a stunning comeback in 1993. Cable station CNBC made him an offer that put him back on TV. And 1 year later, Tom Snyder was back on network television with his new show on CBS.
That's an awful thing. See, interviewing an interviewer,
it's terrible.
You know all the tricks. So I just glanced over to look at a note, and immediately you had to mock that.
Well, I'm looking to see
in
what you
your
got
own in your own warm manner. Have you changed? Have you gotten things I read about you? They describe you as a teddy bear now.
Is this the mellow question, Jim?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
The answer is probably. You know, as years go by, I'm 58 years old. When I started doing all this stuff back in Milwaukee, I was 19 years old. I'm coming up on 40 years doing this now. And as you go through, you meet so many people and you encounter so many different situations that you tend to become a lot less judgmental. So, yeah, I'm different from the way I was 20 years ago. I think all of us are.
People ask, what do you talk to someone about when you're just that minute before you go on with an interview? And it varies tremendously. With you, it's a snap because we both went to Marquette High School. So what do people who graduated from Marquette High School talk about? Marquette High.
Well, except that we talked about the naked broads at Marquette.
I was hoping you weren't going to mention that. As you think back on that, what are some of the things that come to mind?
I had lunch here, as I told you before we started, Jim, with George Winsenberg, who's outgoing as president of Marquette High at the end of the summer. And we started reminiscing all the stuff that went on. I remember vividly there was an elevator at Marquette High in the back. And the elevator was for faculty and employees and not for students. And one day, I and several others, in clear violation of all the rules, were using the elevator. We were seniors. We thought, why not? We've earned the right to use this elevator. And all of a sudden, the elevator stopped between the second and the third floor, because Father Boyle, who was the prefect of discipline, had hit the kill switch on the first floor. And up the elevator shaft, I could hear his voice wafting, "Snyder, I know you're in there." And, they sent me to Jug, which is after school, folks, and I had to memorize Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, and I was there for months trying to memorize it. And he finally gave me a break and let me go, and it was the last time I ever rode the elevator.
He could inspire fear like I've never seen. And you talk about going to Jug and getting a memory assignment, which was what they used to do.
Yeah.
You get a page of memory or 2 pages, or you probably had 5 pages for that escapade. But I can remember he gave me a page of algebra once.
Oh.
And then he would sit in there, and he was a huge man. He was at least 8 feet tall.
And I've told the story to the folks here. Remember, you had to do your homework in pen and ink, but you weren't allowed to have a fountain pen in school. And the rationale was very simple. Do your studying at school and do your homework at home. And one Christmas, my father gave me this Schaefer's white dot pen. It must have cost $25 in 1952. And I couldn't wait to take it down and show it after Christmas recess. And I had it down there in study hall. I'm showing it off, and I look up, and here's Father Boyle. He says, "Mr. Snyder, what is that?" I said, "Well, that's a fountain pen, Father." He said, "And you know the rule." I said, "Well, yeah, but Father, see, I'm not using the pen. I'm just showing the pen to people because I'm going to take it back home." He said, "Let me see the pen." Snapped it right in half. Oh, man. And like I said, now you got to tell your dad, "Hey, I went south on a $25 pen."
And probably had no mercy on you because it had happened at school.
Oh.
And therefore, Father Boyle was right.
Let me tell you something, Jim. I've got no mercy since birth, okay?
It hasn't been an easy life.
No, I'll
has it?
tell you something. When I was 6 years old, and I'll never forget this, it was 1942, and my father bought 2 sets of electric trains, one for my cousins who lived out in Wauwatosa, and the other for my brother and I. And, you know, they played Father Santa, and they set up the trains, my uncle and my dad, in the middle of the night. My brother and I awakened on Christmas of 1942. These were the last train sets now because the war is going full blast. We plug in ours and turn on the switch, and smoke comes out of the locomotive long before they invented smoke for model trains. The whole thing burned up before our very eyes.
Oh.
And you know, Jim, it's kind of been downhill ever since.
And I'd like to thank you for being with us. You went to Marquette University and started in pre-med, which surprised me. I didn't realize that.
Well, you see, growing up, my Uncle Jim was a doc. Dr. James Regan. He was an orthopedic man at St. Joe's Hospital on 51st and Burleigh. And my father had never had anybody in his family complete school. And my father felt that being a doctor was being a doctor was next to being godly. And he felt it would be wonderful if his firstborn son could become a medical doctor. And so from the time I was a kid, my Uncle Jim was always held up to me as a great role model. And it was always stressed on me, you know, that doctors were very highly paid, that they cured people and did wonderful things. And so whenever anybody asked me, from the time I can remember until I was in high school, what do you want to be when you grow up? The answer was a doctor. And I secretly wanted to be a radio announcer.
You did?
I used to listen to Paul Bartel on WFOX on the old Fox Club in Milwaukee, and he was on the air every afternoon when I came home from school. And I figured out around 9 years old that somewhere was Paul Bartel in a room, and somehow he could be heard in every kitchen in Milwaukee. And I thought that was neat, and I wanted to do that. But I didn't have the heart to tell my father that my ambitions were not in medicine, till I got to pre-med and cut up the frog and threw up, and that was the end of medicine.
Now, you and I were influenced by the same professor at Marquette University, and that was Joe Staudacher.
Oh, sure. I mean, Joe was legendary. Mr. Staudacher, for those of you watching, was the instructor in the broadcast journalism sequence radio workshop and introduction to broadcasting. And we'd go to this little radio studio on the 3rd floor of this old Victorian house that was the School of Speech, I think on 15th in Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And there we were introduced to microphones and turntables and sound effects and broadcasting and radio drama and all that stuff. And it was Joe who tipped me that there was a job opening at WRIT for a morning radio news announcer, and that's how I got my first job in radio, was thanks to Joe Staudacher.
Did you have any idea what you wanted to do, or did you just want to do something?
I just wanted to be on the air, yeah. Jim. I wanted to be on the air, and then when I got to do, I did the news for WRIT, 1340, and I liked the idea of going out with the truck, you know, to a car accident, or a doggy got hit by a car, and you take him to the animal hospital and broadcast on the air, give the name of the owner. And I got this fascination for being out there covering stuff on the news. And I liked it a lot. And it was a perfect marriage between the ambition to want to get on the air, and it gave me something to talk about. You know, a streetcar, a trolley off the tracks, a drawbridge on Wisconsin Avenue that wouldn't close, just stuff like that. But it gave you something to talk about when you went on the air. And it was good for me because it allowed me to develop the facility of being able to make up stuff on the spur of the moment. I've never come here with scripts, like yourself, a question or two, but I've never had people who write material for me, and I've never really felt the need for that because of the training I had covering the news on the radio.
Did you think you'd stay in news?
Yes, I did. I really wanted to do that because, I liked the disc jockey part, but I liked the news part better. And I don't know why, but there was just something intriguing to me about reporting events, about getting involved with people in situations, covering their triumphs and their tragedies. It was very appealing to me in radio. And when I went to television, it was even more so because now we had the addition of the movie camera to show the situation as well as describe it on the radio.
But you lose a lot of the describing aspect because the camera really takes over.
Yeah, but here I learned to write. I was working in Savannah, Georgia. It was my first television job. I couldn't buy a TV job in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. I went to Channel 6 WITI,
right.
And there was a fellow there, a very nice man named Dean McCarthy, who was the program director. And I auditioned for the news, and I couldn't buy a job. I went to WTMJ, and I couldn't buy a job in Milwaukee. And so I went to Savannah, Georgia, and I learned how to write words that would match the pictures on the silent movies so that there was a cohesive presentation on the news. I'll tell you a funny story about Milwaukee. There was a station there that may still be on the air, WXIX.
It is a television station. It's Channel 18.
Well, it was Channel 19 then.
Right. Everything moved.
Yeah, XIX 19. And it was owned by CBS.
It's the first time I've understood that.
Yeah, where we sit. Oh, XIX?
Yes, I never...
Yeah, it was Channel 19. And it was the CBS-owned station. There was a freeze. They couldn't put on any VHF stations, and so they put on this UHF station, and they carried all the CBS programming, and it was the first time we ever saw it in Milwaukee. And everybody got a converter. Milwaukee still is the most highly converted UHF city, I believe, in America.
I think so.
And the fella that did the 10 o'clock news was an anchorman named Jerry Dunphy.
Oh, my.
Jerry Dunphy is now one of the lead anchormen in Los Angeles and has been so since 1960 out here in Southern California. Well, when Jerry went to Chicago, he went to WBBM. That was the promotion. You left Milwaukee and you went to Chicago. I auditioned for his job at the age of 20 years old, and I didn't get it. And they hired a man named Roger Grimsby, who I would later meet at ABC in New York as the enormously successful anchorman of Eyewitness News on Channel 7. And when I got to Los Angeles to start doing news in 1963, there's that guy Dunphy from Milwaukee again. In fact, we speak now on the phone. We're two guys from Milwaukee.
Your hair is second only to his.
Well, he's getting so old, his hair is turning black.
Is there a worse job that you can think of that you had go through the years, or one that you didn't like, or people that you didn't like that you had to work with?
You mean in television and broadcasting?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was the job that I had at ABC in New York was not a good job for me. I had come off the Tomorrow Show. And when you leave a show after almost 9 years on the television network and you start looking for work, it's very, very tough to find because most people think you don't want to work anymore. Mm-hmm. And I didn't want to not work anymore. You know, number one, I couldn't afford to not work anymore. This was 1982. And secondly, I love broadcasting. This is what I do for a living. This is it. And so I took a job as a news anchorman in New York at Channel 7. And I wasn't right for it, and it wasn't right for me. And I don't want to go into detail about it, but it was not a pleasant 2 years. And after 2 years, I said goodbye to them, and they said goodbye to me, and we parted happy. I mean, but it wasn't a great job.
You pioneered this genre of talk. I mean, there were people on in the evening before you, but no one had done the kind of talk that Tom Snyder started with the Tomorrow Show.
Oh, some did. There's a fellow named Les Crane who was very active up in San Francisco.
He was almost straight insult.
Yeah, a little bit. And there was David Susskind who did good talk on Sunday nights in syndication.
But limited audience,
yeah.
Very.
But we
always want to demonstrate that he was brighter than the guest. It seemed
we
to me.
were among the first really to just turn on the cameras and let it go. We didn't have a studio audience. We didn't have music. We didn't do comedy sketches. We were pure talk in 1973, and it was different. The time period was different, and the country was different. There was no such thing as The Late Show with David Letterman and The Tonight Show. There were no cable networks. HBO was in its infancy. There was no People magazine. There was no Good Morning America. There was no CBS This Morning. There was The Today Show. That was it. It was a very small media world. And we were able to find a niche with this talk about all kinds of stuff that people had not seen before on TV, the sexual things, and we attracted an audience with it. We got lucky.
It must have been a difficult sell to convince people that, no, this is the kind of show we're going to do. First of all, that we should do a show at that hour,
right?
Which had always been reruns of So You Want to Be a Nun or whatever.
No, I'll tell you what it was sign-off. At 1 o'clock in the morning in the stations that I worked at, we said, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the entire staff and management, thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow morning. We played the Star-Spangled Banner and went off the air. Now everything goes all night. Mm-hmm. We were the beginning of 24-hour television, to be sure. And it was a tough sell, not so much to the audience, but to the advertisers. Mm-hmm. I mean, we played for a year. I think we ran one spot for Juicy Fruit, and the other was Smokey the Bear and pick up paper on the highways and that sort of thing. There were no commercials at all.
And then slowly people found out about you and started buying time.
We went to New York. We took a trip to New York, and in New York, if they don't see you, they don't know you. And I mean, 1 o'clock in the morning, I mean, let's face it, back in the 1970s, the ad crowd in New York was half bagged. Probably fully bagged. Don't you love when they say, I'm half in the chute. Come on, you're all the way in the chute, You're not half loaded, you're fully loaded. But we took the show to New York, and we called in advertisers to come and see the show in the studio and gave them dinner. And once they saw what it was and that it was viable, they began to buy it. And of course, once you get a couple of good buys, if you sell to Ford, you sell to United Airlines or American or TWA at the time, then other blue chip advertisers would come on board.
That show went off the air, and then you had some tough times.
Well, I told you I went to work for Channel 7 in New York. I didn't have tough times financially because they paid me well, but I had become so identified with talk, and I had become so identified with late night that the news at 5 o'clock in the afternoon was just not my stage. It wasn't for me, and so I left it, and I came back to Los Angeles. And I bounced around out here for about a year and a half doing odd jobs for ABC. I was under contract to ABC Television. And I've told this story 100 times, but maybe not to your audience, that Larry King had a heart attack in 1987. And somebody from Mutual called. They said, how would you like to substitute for Larry King on talk radio on Mutual? I said, yeah, I'll do that for a week, pitch in, Larry will be back. And I went on the radio, and King had a lot of stations. He had almost 500 radio stations late at night. They ran from 11 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning. And they had this. Mm-hmm. They had the telephone. And people started calling in, and they say, hey, Tom, where you been? Geez, we used to watch your show. Hey, remember the night you had on Jim Peck, and you guys did the thing about that. And it became almost like a little snowball going down a hill and getting bigger and bigger as the week went on. Tom Snyder, geez, where the hell you been? What have you been doing? We liked your show, we hated your show, or whatever. But it was the first time I realized that I had done anything that people really cared about. When you do these shows, you operate in a vacuum. You get an occasional review. Somebody on the street will say, I like you, or I hate you. But when the phone starts ringing for 5 nights and people say, I think you're great, or I think I didn't much care for you, or whatever, at least you say, I made a connection there. And so then, from that, I went back on the radio for ABC for 5+ years.
That's something I really envy. I've never done radio.
Oh, it's wonderful.
I love the idea of it.
It's wonderful.
It's the most intimate medium.
There's nothing in the world like it. And I've said before, people will tell you things on the radio that they will never, ever tell you on television because nobody is watching.
Right.
You're in a darkened studio, and it's you and your guest, you and your compadres, and you can start talking about stuff, and it goes and goes. It's wonderful. It's just wonderful. And I mourn its demise for me. I would have been very happy to spend the rest of my life on WYSN in Milwaukee, which used to carry my show. We used to go out there every year for Summerfest. One year we went, and they set off the 15 or 20-minute Grucci fireworks right in the middle of our radio show. Now, how the hell do you do fireworks on the radio? It's tough.
Well, it's a good test.
Yeah, it was a hell of a test, let me tell you. There goes a blue one.
Yeah.
Well, how about that silver?
You always were a wordsmith.
Yeah, right. Blue and silver.
Then talk radio became the biggest thing in entertainment.
It did for a time in the elections in '92. But we weren't as much a part of it as was Rush Limbaugh, who was on in the daytime, and who was openly political in the '92 election. I mean, Rush Limbaugh had an agenda, and that was the re-election of George Bush. We got some of it, but we didn't get a lot of it because we tried to produce big-time radio at night. My dream was to go to Disneyland one night and have Les Brown and the Band of Renown there and, do all the great stuff that radio had done in the golden years. And we never got to do that, but we had your Billy Crystal, and we had your I'm trying to think of all the movie stars that we put on. We had Richard Harris. We had big-time people on the radio every night. And America liked it a lot. They called and said so. But the economy went south in '92, and with it went talk radio for ABC. So then I went to the cable company, CNBC, and started doing all that stuff.
Did you ever think about doing daytime radio?
I tried it. Mutual came to me. Larry King was phasing out in '94, and they asked me if I'd like to do his radio show for Mutual. And I said, let me think about that. I was at CNBC, and we were just gathering steam at CNBC, but I keep my nose in radio here at CBS.
Mm-hmm.
We simulcast, and most nights I go downstairs when I finish television and spend 20 minutes on the radio with Elliot Forrest out of CBS New York and take calls from people on how they like the television show. And I went to San Francisco. My dream was to stay in radio, move to San Francisco, live in Marin County, take the ferry boat to work every afternoon, take the ferry boat back home at night, and do radio from the Embarcadero in San Francisco. What a life, huh?
Not bad.
Yeah, super life. But it wasn't to be. But I thought, let me try this. And so Larry King was on now. They had moved him to 3 to 6 Eastern time, which is noon to 3 Pacific time. And it wasn't right for me. I'm not ready at 12 noon.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not up. I'm not ready to go. I've been working nights for 40 years, and I can't change now. So I tried it for a week, and I said, fellas, as much as I love radio, I don't love daytime radio. And I didn't do it. And they went on to hire David Brenner, who's been very, very successful with that show.
Do you think talk radio is as important as the people who do it think it is? I mean, I get the feeling from listening to talk show hosts around the country.
Oh, well, they think that the that the agenda of the nation, of the world, is set by talk radio.
Precisely, and we'll tell you that.
It's not that important, but it's important. It's very, very important. It's our town hall. It's the glue. It's part of the glue that holds us together. And, I've said the magic of call-in shows is we live in a time in America when so many people feel, rightly or wrongly, James, their government isn't listening to them, their church is not listening to them, in many cases their spouse is not listening to them, and they have nobody to talk to. And so they call the radio or they call the TV and they ventilate. And for that reason, it's very valuable and it's very powerful. I think talk radio was a major player in the elections of 1994. Major player.
Well, it seems to be, at least what I'm exposed to, almost exclusively conservative.
Yeah, it does. There are some liberal voices. There's Michael Jackson here in Los Angeles on KABC. There were some in San Francisco, but it has gone largely conservative now. I'm not familiar with Milwaukee. Because I don't live there, I don't know
Two principal ones, Mark Belling and Charlie Sykes, both conservative.
Okay. Yep, it is conservative. Yeah, it's very conservative, talk radio.
And television talk has devolved into freak shows. Daytime television talk is appalling.
Those people should either go to a psychiatrist, or they should go to the hospital, or they should spend more time with their clergy person, because they definitely need help.
Do you have any feeling that all those guests may not be legitimate?
Well, some aren't. I believe in the case of Sally Jesse Raphael, and I might be mistaken here, but I believe in the case of one of her guests it was proved that he or she was bogus. And this has come up before, that people are paid to sing various songs. And I don't mean to single out Sally Jesse Raphael, but what the hell I have. And so, let her clean up the mess.
But I remember when I was out here, here being Los Angeles, obviously, where we're sitting tonight, that I would hear rumors of that. Somebody would say, gee, a friend of mine's an actor, and he was asked to go on a show, but nobody ever seemed to come up with it.
Well, we put a guy on the air over at CNBC, and I can't think of his name for the life of me, but he was a professional regular in the audience, and he would always be on the air challenging the guests on Phil Donahue or on Montel Williams or on Sally Jesse Raphael or the shows that came out of New York. You'd see him on every show. He was the expert, and he'd say, by the way, to the guest, you really don't mean to tell me that your girlfriend fell in love with your mother, do you? All that stuff they do. And he was a professional guest in the audience, made a living doing that.
You just look at these things and you see one bizarre situation after another, and that's all they seem to want to do.
I can't really tell you about that because I don't watch those shows. I'm busy in the afternoon doing other stuff, and I really don't care to watch lesbian nuns and the priests who hate them and all that, all that stuff they do.
I missed that segment.
I just have zero interest in that. I have absolutely no interest in that sort of thing, and it amazes me that these programs continue to do so well.
Somebody is obviously watching, or they wouldn't be on the air.
Of course, there are a lot of people out there who need to get a life. I can tell you.
I think part of it is the fascination with the O.J. trial. I mean, this is not the crime of the century. It's
sure. Yeah, it is.
Really, you think so?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, no question.
I think there were more serious crimes.
Name
than this.
one.
Lindbergh.
Oh, no, not even close. Not even close. I mean, the Lindbergh thing was it was in its time sensational, but this one touches everything because of the permeation of media. I mean, the world is here covering this thing. It's on the air in Los Angeles every day. I mean, the Lindbergh trial wasn't on the air every day. It was in the papers every day. But this thing, I mean, every tabloid magazine, every television talk show, every television news program, every television comedy show, it's the subject of monologue jokes on both Leno and Letterman and Conan O'Brien. I mean, it's everywhere. And so by that yardstick, I think it is the most sensational trial of the century, if not of all time. If not of all time.
You happy now?
Oh, yeah. I am so happy. I am so fortunate. And I've been so lucky. I mean, I've been in the right place at the right time a lot of times. But, I mean, all the things that have happened to me in broadcasting over the past 5 years, it's been like an E-ride at Disneyland. You know, I've just strapped myself on and watched it all happen, and I've just had an awful lot of fun doing it.
We've had a ball taking that ride with you, and thank you for letting me come on your set.
It's my great pleasure. I hope you liked it here.
I love it. I'm going to be back here tomorrow, as a matter of fact.
Really?
Thank you for being with us next time. I hope we'll see you right here on I Remember Milwaukee.
You mean right here in this chair?
Right here. I'm going to come back.
Fab.
Yeah, you don't have anything special going, do you?
No.